Top 5 rapwebsite.com. You already know what's going on. Today we got City of the Week number 12. Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt. 1996, Jay-Z's first album. And I know what y'all are thinking. I've had about 11, 12 City of the Week so far, and like 4 of them have been Jay-Z. Like, how many Jay-Z albums do you have? Well, this is Reasonable Doubt, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Dynasty, Blueprint 1, and it's blue, Blueprint 2, the Black Album, Blueprint 3, Magna Carta. So we have plenty of Jay-Z, but this episode is focused on Reasonable Doubt. Now, this is maybe my favorite Jay-Z album. It's hard to call it when he has so many albums, and so many of those albums are good. But this is the album from Jay-Z. When I first heard it, I was like, whoa. So, short story, in this City of the Week episode, I was not a Jay-Z supporter, like just off top. Like, out here in California, especially growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, which I grew up in, Jay-Z wasn't like this huge like figure that was super, you know, top dog. The top dog out here was Snoop and Ice Cube. Then the mid 2000s came around, it was Game. Jay-Z was just a good rapper. I heard him at times when he collaborated with like DPG. He had Dr. Dre on a producer song called The Watcher. Changed the Game featuring DPG. That's when I heard Jay-Z the most. I didn't grow up listening to Jay-Z, but I would say around 2006, 2007, I had this little iPod Shuffle. If you remember the iPod Shuffle, shout out to you. And the iPod Shuffle, if you had one, you remember, it did not have that much memory. You could really only fit about 3 albums on it, which is about 50 or so songs. The 3 albums that I had on that iPod Shuffle were T.I. vs. T.I.P., Kanye West, Graduation, and American Gangster by Jay-Z. You look at these release dates for these projects, they all came out around the same time. Those are the 3 albums I had on that iPod Shuffle. My favorite album on there for the longest time was the Kanye West Graduation. It had the Good Life, Good Morning, had all the jams on there. And then T.I. vs. T.I.P. had a lot of songs that I liked too. I would typically skip the American Gangster by Jay-Z album because Jay-Z just he wasn't as appealing to me at the time as a T.I., as a Kanye. Kanye, that's my era. T.I., that's my era. Jay-Z, kind of before my era, slightly. So he didn't appeal to me as much. But one day I'm walking home from school. My iPod Shuffle battery is low. And if I keep trying, and if you remember iPod Shuffle, there's no screen on there. You couldn't select the song you wanted to listen to. You had to like skip forward and it would randomly shuffle. So me, I had 3 albums. I couldn't pick and choose a song. I would have to skip on shuffle until I got to the album I wanted to hear. Then I could go back and forth within that album and find a specific song. You all don't have to do that nowadays. You have Spotify. But this is what we had to do back then. So I couldn't do that because the battery was low. So because the battery was low, I had to listen to what I had to listen to. Otherwise, I'm not going to have music when I walk home. So I couldn't skip any other songs. I couldn't skip over the Jay-Z American Gangster album, basically. I heard one song. It might have been I Know, or Blue Magic. I'm like, okay, that's nice. Then I heard another song. And I'm actually listening through these songs in full for the first time. I'm like, wow, this is really good. Then eventually I end up listening to so many songs on shuffle off of there that I liked, that I'm like, okay, I need to listen to some of his music because I really like this American Gangster album, still do to this day. And then after that experience, I went back and listened to this, Reasonable Doubt. And then once I heard Reasonable Doubt, I'm like, okay, yeah. I'm like, this is what I've been waiting to hear. Like, this is like the pinnacle of beats and bars, lyricism. everything has come together on this album. When I first heard Reasonable Doubt, I'm like this is like some of the best music I ever heard. Like, I didn't know I needed this album. In other albums, I would listen to a lot of music. They either had beats or they had the swag or the lyrics, but it never all came together. When I heard this, I'm like, yo, this is a perfect album. This is me like at 14, 15, 16. So, Reasonable Doubt. And I remember I didn't want to listen to any other Jay-Z albums because I'm like, it doesn't get better than this. I feel like I heard the best one. And I don't want anything to sour my image of Jay-Z, even though I didn't really start off liking him like that. When I got into music heavily, like digging and finding, you know, underground artists and really finding music, Jay-Z was coming back into music. He was at like the Kingdom Come album. I remember that vividly. Jay-Z was coming back from retirement with the Kingdom Come album. This is around the time where I'm listening to Reasonable Doubt for the first time. And I heard this album. Everything I want, I need more of this. After I listened to Reasonable Doubt, I'm like, you know, I need to listen to these guys on these message forums, which was like the social media equivalent. I need to listen to what they say, because they would recommend this album, but I just never listened to it. I need to listen to them. After this, I went and listened to Illmatic. I'm like, oh yeah, this is another one of those like this. Perfect album, everything come together. Cuban Linx, same thing. So this is kind of really what started my deep digging in hip hop, which made me a hip hop head. I was into hip hop at the time, but I wasn't digging. This is the beginning of my digging. Really, American Gangster, which I'll get that album at some point and do a review. But when I heard this, I'm like, yeah, I didn't think any other Jay-Z album could touch this. But lo and behold, he has many albums that are just as good as this. Volume 1, Blueprint, Black Album, many of those which I have, all of those which I have. But anywho, now this is produced largely by DJ Premier, who has 3 songs. We're not counting the bonus track. DJ Premier has 3 songs on here. He has The Evils, he has Friend or Foe, and he has Bring It On featuring Big Jazz and Sauce Money. The producer who's produced the most songs on this album goes by the name of Ski BEATZ. So if you've seen my Pilot Talk 1 Vinyl of the Week, if you've seen, you know, pretty much any of my other videos when I talk about producers, Ski BEATZ is my favorite producer of all time, because he has my favorite albums. Before I even knew who produced these albums, I knew I really liked this beat, and whoever's doing these beats is on one. Reasonable Doubt, Pilot Talk 1, Camp Low, Uptown, Saturday Night. Those are like 3 albums on my top 10, and Ski BEATZ handles the bulk of the production on all of those. So Ski BEATZ has Politics as Usual on this album, Dead Presidents 2, Feeling It featuring Mecca, 22 Twos, and Politics as Usual. Now, if you go and you watch interviews online, you'll see that some of these beats, like Feeling It, were actually meant for Camp Low. So I mentioned Camp Low, Uptown, Saturday Night. Some of these beats were actually meant for Camp Low, but you gotta go watch the interviews yourself to see what happened there. But yeah, man, Ski BEATZ, DJ Premier. These are like 2 of my top 10 producers all time. All these great songs, lyrics on point. Jay-Z, where he's still writing. If you watch Jay-Z interviews, he mentions there's a certain time where he stopped writing. I think I want to say Can I Live, which is track number 8 on this album, was the last time he wrote. After that, it became like the Rain Man, recall, memorizing lyrics, key phrases, and then just spilling the verse just with that little bit of thought. Oh, here you have Jay-Z Still in Pocket. Great songs on here. Politics as Usual, Can't Knock the Hustle featuring Mary J. Blige, Brooklyn's Finest featuring Biggie. This isn't a posthumous Biggie verse. This is Biggie and Jay-Z in real time, at the time. The Evils with that Prodigy sample. Cashmere Thoughts, which I think is one of the more overlooked songs on this album. This is Dame Dash, Biggs, Jay-Z, the trifecta, Primo, Ski BEATZ, Jay-Z still writing, everything come together. This doesn't feel like a first album. This feels like someone's second, third, fourth album. Like they're already polished. They already got it together. Nah, man. Rockefeller Records, Reasonable Doubt is one of my favorite albums of all time. And yeah, man, amazing, amazing album. I listen to it still to this very day, and this was released in '96. It's currently 2022. If you're in the future, it's whatever year you're in the future at. Post a comment below. But yeah, man, that is CD of the Week number 12. Be sure to subscribe if you have not already. And this is Top 5 rapwebsite.com. Peace.